Have you ever had someone pursue you with an intensity that, well, it just felt more unsettling than romantic? You know, when the attention comes on so strong, so fast, that it leaves you feeling kind of confused and maybe even a little worried. That's exactly what we're going to dive into today, all based on a real question someone sent in about a deeply confusing experience they had.
Okay, let's start with the situation that kicked this whole discussion off. I'm going to read this person's experience to you word for word because the details are just so important. They wrote, "Hello, I have the following question. What is the psychology of boys when they fall in love? I ask my question because I met a boy who impressed me with his behavior. I don't feel anything, I don't know him. I saw him for the first time a few months ago for 2 times at most at work, and that was it. After that I haven't contacted him. I'm not sure what exactly happened after that, but he changed his behavior. He started asking about me, he cried, he wanted to see me, and everyone thought he liked me, and he finally admitted it. They also told him some things about me, and that had an impact too. He was looking for me to see what I am, and he finally found another boy with whom I work, and through him he got to know me better. So the interesting thing is how assertive, persistent he is with me. This lasted 3-4 months, and during that time he used words like my girl, my first love, he did nice things for me behind my back, I was nice to him, etc. Then he talked about marriage, he even defended me. It was strange for me, because I've seen guys who are more brazen in their approach at the beginning. Others are direct, others flatter or impress, and here he even explains things in love. He is 25 years old, and what I know about him is that he was very good and kind by nature. But it's strange and very hasty to me. I don't like him. With the other boy, who also admitted later that he liked me, he even started playing tricks on me and intrigues and dirty things, which honestly even worried me. Sometimes they are rude, sometimes they are kind and nice. The whole time I believed to some extent that he might like me, but not so much of course. But I am also negatively disposed, and for me this has some pretext. To me, this behavior is somewhat childish if you want to attract a girl you like. My question is caused by the strong expression of his feelings, his stubbornness, but at the same time rudeness. In my opinion, the reason is different, but it is used as a pretext. But it kind of aroused my interest in their psychology in this regard."
Okay, before we break down any of the psychology here, let's start with the most important thing. To the person who shared this story, that feeling you have that something is strange and hasty and just off, that's completely valid. That sense of unease is your intuition, and it is your most powerful guide in situations like this. It is absolutely telling you something important.
So let's trust that intuition and really break down what's happening here. The first, and maybe the most glaring red flag, is just the sheer speed of it all. This is a classic case where the words, the grand emotions, and the declarations are moving way faster than any real actual connection.
I mean, just think about the language being used. Phrases like, my girl, my first love, and talking about marriage after you've only met someone twice, that's not about building a real connection, it's about claiming one. This language is being used to build a fantasy of a relationship where, let's be honest, one doesn't actually exist.
And this leads us right into a really key psychological concept, idealization. See, the person doing the pursuing here, they're not falling for a real person. They're falling for a projection. They've built up this whole idea of who you are in their mind, and that fantasy is what they've become so attached to.
You know, psychology actually has a specific term for this kind of state. It's called limerence. And it's so much more than just a simple crush. It's this involuntary, all-consuming emotional state where the other person is put on a pedestal, they're idealized, and there's this intense, almost desperate need for those feelings to be returned.
And we can see all the signs of it right here in this story. The idealization, it's crystal clear. The obsessive thinking, the constant questions and information gathering, that's there too. And the dramatic emotions, like crying, that fits the pattern perfectly. The whole pursuit is being fueled by the idea of a person, not the reality of one.
So what about that confusing switch from being super affectionate to suddenly being aggressive? From all those kind gestures to the rude intrigues? Well, this isn't random. It often points to what we call an anxious attachment style, which can create this really painful and honestly predictable cycle of behavior.
This cycle usually follows a 4-step pattern. It all starts with idealization, putting you up on a pedestal. But when reality inevitably doesn't match that perfect fantasy, disappointment sinks in. And that disappointment can turn into aggression, the rudeness and the intrigues, as a way to try and control the situation. And finally, when they're afraid they might lose you for good, they circle right back to reconciliation, becoming kind again to try and pull you back in. It is a deeply unstable and confusing pattern for anyone on the receiving end.
And this brings us to probably the most important reframing of all. We really need to stop looking at this behavior through the lens of romance and start seeing it for what it truly is, a violation of personal boundaries. And that distinction, it's not just about words, it is fundamental to your emotional safety. It is so easy to get confused, right? To wonder, well, maybe this is just passionate, old-fashioned persistence.
But the answer is a hard no. Healthy romantic interest is always built on a foundation of mutual respect. What's being described here is a total disregard for the other person's feelings, their space, and their autonomy. Let's be really clear here. These actions are not romantic. Secretly gathering information about someone, using possessive language when you're not even in a relationship, creating intrigues, that's not about connection. That's about control. It's an attempt to force a fantasy into reality, no matter how the other person feels about it. So, to make this distinction crystal clear, let's just compare mature and immature attraction side by side. Think of this as a kind of practical checklist you can use anytime you get that feeling that something is a little off. It's pretty stark when you see it laid out like this, right? On one side, you have mature attraction. It's gradual, it respects your boundaries, the behavior is consistent. On the other side, you have immature attraction. These intense declarations, possessive language, wild emotional swings. I mean, one is about connection, the other is about obsession. The difference is night and day.
So now, after analyzing the pursuer's psychology, let's bring the focus back to where it really belongs, on you. Because your internal response to all of this, that is the most reliable and important signal you will ever get.
Just think back to the original words used to describe this whole situation. It's strange. It worried me. Those feelings aren't confusion. They are absolute clarity. Your emotional and your physical responses are correctly identifying that this behavior is unsettling and it is not appropriate. You have to trust that feeling completely.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. While trying to understand the why behind someone's actions can be interesting, it's not the most important question. The only question that truly matters is, how does this behavior make me feel? Do you feel calm and respected, or do you feel anxious and pressured? Your answer, that's your truth, and it is the only guide you will ever need.